Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is from Canto 2, Chapter 4, and Text 19. We're fortunate this morning to have Her Grace Vrindavanesvari Radhika Mataji from ISKCON Philadelphia to give the class. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept our humble obeisances. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Good morning. Please accept my obeisances. All glories of Prabhupada.
Yay.
Happy
It's all
Friday.
yours.
Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Giravadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Gopi Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Gopi Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatarya Satas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yay.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatarya Satas Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yay.
Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Yay.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Yay.
Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Yay.
Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Gitter Govardhan Ki Jai.
Yay.
Mayapurdhan Ki Jai.
Yay.
Vrindavandam Ki Jai.
Yay.
Nimuna Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Devi
Yay.
Ki
Yay.
Tulsi Devi Ki Jai.
Yay.
Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Yay.
ISKCON Harrisburg Ki Jai.
Yay.
Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Yay.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Garanga. Hare Hare Bol.
Oh, glory to Sri
Nama
Guru.
Krishna Hare Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityamane
Namaste.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Shesha Shunyavadi Pashuta Deshatarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Rayana Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottama Devam Saraswatim Vyasyam Chatutaya Manirya Nastapaya Surabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So, good morning, everyone. We're here reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 4, the process of creation. Today we are reading verse 19. So I'll repeat it 3 times and then we can take turns. Saesha Atma Madvatam Adishvaras Trayi Mayo Dharma Maya Tapo Maya Gatava Likir Aja Sankara Dibir Vitarkaya Lingo Bhagavan Prashidatam Saesha Atma Madvatam Adishvara Ayamiyo Dharma Maya Tapo Maya Gatavai Lakir Aja Sankir Adibir Vitarkaya Lingo Bhagavan Prashidatyam Saesha Atmat Matavam Adishvaras Mayo Dharma Maya Tapo Maya Gatavalikir Aja Sankar Adibir Vatarkya Lingo Bhagavan Prashidatam. Anyone else?
Saisha Atmatmavatam Adishwaras. Saima Yudharma Mayas Tapumaya. Katavyalike Ajasankara Divi. Gita Kalingo Bhagavan Prasidatam. Hare Krishna.
Hey Krishna. Anyone else like to chant?
Saisha Atmamadbhatamadisvaras Trayi Mayudharma Mayastapomaya Gatavyalikaraja Shankaradhipir Vitarkya Lingo Bhagavan Prashidatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Someone else?
Hare Krishna. Saesha Atma Avatam Adishwaras Mayo Dharma Mayastapomaya Gatavyalikair Ajo Shankaradibir Vitarkya Lingo Bhagavan Prasidatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Would anyone else like to chant? Okay. We'll go into word for word. Sa, he. Esa, it is. Atma, the super soul. Atma Vatam, of the self-realized souls. Adishvara, the supreme lord. Trayi Maya, personified Vedas. Dharma Maya, personified religious scriptures. Tapa Maya, personified austerity. Gata Vyalikai, by those who are above all pretensions. Aja, Brahmaji. Shankara Adibi, by Lord Shiva and others. Vitarkya Linga, one who is observed with awe and veneration. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Prashidatam, be kind toward me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that supreme absolute be pleased with me. Purport. The supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, although the Lord of all followers, of different paths of self-realization is knowable only by those who are above all pretensions. Everyone is searching for eternal peace or eternal life, and with an aim to this destination, everyone is either studying the Vedic scriptures or other religious scriptures, or undergoing severe austerity as empiric philosophers, as mystic yogis, or as unalloyed devotees, etc. But the Supreme Lord is perfectly realized only by the devotees because they are above all pretensions. Those who are on the path of self-realization are generally classified as karmis, jnanis, yogis, or devotees of the Lord. The karmis, who are much attracted by the fruitive activities of the Vedic rituals, are called bhukti kami, or those who desire material enjoyment. The jnanis, who try to become one with Supreme by mental speculation, are called mukti kami, or those who desire liberation from material existence. The mystic yogis, who practice different types of austerities for attainment of 8 kinds of material perfection, and who ultimately meet the supersoul Paramatma in trance, are called siddhi kami, or those who desire the perfection of becoming finer than the finest, becoming heavier than the heaviest, getting everything desired, having control over everyone, creating everything liked, etc. All these are abilities of a powerful yogi, but the devotees of the Lord do not want anything like that for self-satisfaction. They want only to serve the Lord, because the Lord is great as living and as living entities, they are eternally subordinate parts and parcel of the Lord. This perfect realization of the self by the devotee helps him to become desireless, to desire nothing for his personal self, and thus the devotees are called nishkami, without any desire. A living entity, by this constitutional position, cannot be void of all desires. The bhukti kami, mukti kami, and siddhi kami all desire something for some personal satisfaction, but the nishkami devotees of the Lord desire everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. They are completely dependent on the orders of the Lord and are always ready to discharge their duty for the satisfaction of the Lord. In the beginning, Arjuna placed himself as one of those who desire self-satisfaction, for he desired not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but to make himself desireless for the Lord. The Lord preached the Bhagavad Gita, in which the ways of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and also Bhakti Yoga were explained. Because Arjuna was without any pretension, he changed his decision and satisfied the Lord by agreeing to fight, Karishye Vachanam Tava, and thus he became desireless. The examples of Brahma and Lord Shiva are specifically cited here because Brahmaji, Lord Shiva, Srimati Lakshmi, and the 4 Kumars, Sanaka, Sanata, etc., are leaders of the 4 desireless Vaishnava Sampradayas. They are all freed from all pretensions. Srila Jiva Goswami interprets the word Gata Vyalalikai as Projiti Kaitavai, or those who are freed from all pretensions, the unalloyed devotees only. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19:149, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ata Eva Santa, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Asanta. Those who are after fruitive results for their pious activities, those who desire salvation and identity with the Supreme, and those who desire material perfections of mystic power are all restless because they want something for themselves. But the devotee is completely peaceful because he has no demand for himself and is always ready to serve the desire of the Lord. The conclusion is, therefore, that the Lord is for everyone because no one can achieve the result of his respective desires without his sanction. But as stated by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 8:9, all such results are awarded by him only for the Lord is Adishvara, the original controller of everyone, namely the Vedantists, the great Karmakandiyas, the great religious leaders, the great performers of austerity, and all who are striving for spiritual advancement. But ultimately, he is realized by the pretensionless devotee only. Therefore, a special stress is given to the devotional service of the Lord by Srila Shukadev Goswami. Om Jnana Timirandasya Kyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunam Latamyena Tashme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitamyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Svadvadhantikam Om Vishvedaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Jamati Bhakti Charaswaminiti Namane Snekta Chaita Supraneta Vagmanam Charasaplivan Prabhupada Gata Prananam Bhakti Charapadam. So I'll read the translation again. He is the super soul and the supreme Lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that supreme absolute be pleased with me. So there's a lot to unpack, actually, in this today. So I'll try and hit on some of the key points that kind of came out to me while reading through this and preparing for today's class. First of all, in the purport, Prabhupada really kind of jumps into the concept of Bhoktaram Yagi Tapasham, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. This is a very well-known shloka in Bhagavad Gita, and it's called the Peace Formula. And the Peace Formula is saying that the Lord is the receiver of all yagyas. He is the protector of all living entities, well-wisher of all living entities. And so the Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to bring this up. The Bhagavad Gita 537 is actually it's not 537, but the Bhagavad Gita shloka that this is referencing in this chapter is talking specifically about Krishna's how Krishna comes to how he comes to this world. This is his position, that he is the knower of everything. He is the receiver of everything. So all religious principles, all Vedic scriptures, everything, all austerities, all of those are for the benefit of the Supreme Lord. He is the receiver of all of those. So and here Sukadeva Goswami is explaining to Maharaj Parikshit this the position of the Lord. He's explaining the process of creation to Maharaj Parikshit in his last few days of life. And Maharaj Parikshit is listening very raptly. He's listening with great attention. Sukadeva Goswami is also asking that the Lord is pleased with him because he's sharing this beautiful wisdom to Maharaj Parikshit. So there's a lot of reference in here to the different types of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga. You've got the dhyana yoga, all of these different yoga systems and where they bring you to. So I wanted to get into this a little bit and really, talk about the different processes, but also really start to unpack this concept of nishkama karma. And the Prabhupada gives a verse here from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Bhakti Nishkama Ata Eva Santa Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakyali Ashanta. And here he's saying that the fruits of activities, those who are seeking out material gains, those aren't going to get anyone anywhere. They're not going to truly find peace. The only one that's going to truly find peace is the one who's doing everything for the benefit and for the pleasure of the Lord. And this is the real take home of Bhagavad Gita too, is when Arjuna is on the battlefield, he's very much aggrieved by the situation. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, I cannot do this. He throws down his Gandiva bow and he declares himself incapable of fighting, unable to fight because of all of his dilemmas around the situation. And Krishna says to Arjuna in the 4th chapter, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart are out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. So here Krishna's saying to Arjuna that once you understand the process, the true process of yoga, once you understand have the real knowledge, that Raja Vidya, that highest knowledge, once you've gained that knowledge, then you'll realize that it's your duty to fight. And he brings that around in the 18th chapter. He brings that to full circle from 4th chapter to 18th chapter, after going through all of these stages of explaining karma yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga, and then sharing with Arjuna his opulences, the divine and demoniac natures. He's sharing with Arjuna all of these important aspects of yoga. Once he gets through all of that, his conclusion at the end, very end of the 18th chapter, it's the 73rd verse. At the very end, he says, Arjuna says to Krishna, oh, my dear Krishna, oh infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions. So this is what we're really talking about today. This, going from all of the Krishna calling Arjuna out and saying these doubts are from ignorance, but they should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge, with proper understanding of yoga, to at the end Arjuna saying, my illusion is now gone. I am now ready to take your instructions accordingly. So this is when we think about the process of nishkama karma yoga, what we're really talking about is surrendering all of our own personal desires in our activities and doing everything for the pleasure of the Lord. So there's different stages of these getting up to nishkama karma yoga, and that's where it gets a little bit, as Prabhupada describes in Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita, there are different stages that one may find themselves in, and maybe we find ourselves kind of navigating these things in life, and but there's the concept of karma, vikarma, and akarma. And these are really important concepts to understand, because they very much tie into this concept of nishkama karma. And the nature of karma, as we know it, we know that karma is a reaction, this karmic reaction that one may have as a result of certain activities. And so karma yoga, when one is practicing karma yoga, they're engaging in the material activities. They may be surrendering some of their fruits to the Lord, but they're still engaging very deeply in material activities. But there's still karmic activity happening. So they're still gaining that karmic responsibility, the karmic reaction for whatever that they're doing. So they're not free from that. And when one's practicing karma yoga, they're still very much responsible for the results, for the karmic results that are coming to them. And so karma is very much in the sense of, there's people say there's good karma and bad karma. There's just karma, right? Karma is a reaction. It's simply cause and effect. So we have to understand the nature of karma to understand that it's when we are acting in these material energies, there is a cause and effect with everything we do, everything we think, everything we don't do. Even abstention can collect karma as well. So when we're abstaining from certain activities, that can also collect karma. So even just by thinking we're just sitting and staying out of activities, we still are collecting karma, unless we are in mukti, unless we're meditating on the Lord, and even then we might still be collecting karmic reactions. So we have to really understand that concept of karma. Now, vikarma is doing things against Vedic injunction, and vikarma can be really precarious. So we want to be very careful when we are doing things in this material world, that we're not committing vikarmic activities, because vikarma is very much against the religious principles. It's very much against against Vedic injunction. It's so one's going to really have some negative impact from vikarmic activities. But when you think of akarma, and this is where akarma, some people, it can be a confusing concept, but akarma is really activities that are truly in that nishkama karma position. Akarma and nishkama karma kind of go hand in hand in some senses, because akarma is still doing activities, but because one is completely doing them for the Lord, they are free from the reactions. And so this is very much what we might say we might aspire to, is that akarma, that the actions are essentially helping us to become free from the cycle of birth and death. These activities are directly in line with the pleasure of the Lord, with the instructions of the Lord. And so these concepts of that Prabhupada's bringing up here, with the different types of karma, with the different types of yoga, the karmis, the gyanis, the yogis, all of these things, we have to understand that these have different reactions and effects in life, and with regards to our relationship to the Supreme. So Prabhupada explains here that, a karma yoga is again, they're attracted to the fruitive activities. And so they are very much looking for that material enjoyment. The gyanis are trying to mentally wrangle themselves into understanding of the Lord, and by gaining a lot of knowledge. Now, there is a lot of aspects of jnana yoga in bhakti, because we need to practice bhakti with a degree of knowledge. We can't be practicing so in ignorance. We need to understand the principles, understand the Vedic, scriptures to some degree, so that we can understand our true position. And this is where a guru comes in, or the guru sadhu sastra. These are the three things that we turn to for that understanding of our ultimate position. So the aspect of jnana yoga is not absent in devotional life, but it's not the goal. So that's to say, so when you hear about people talking about jnanis, they are gaining knowledge, but their only goal in connecting with the Supreme is by mental speculation. And that's the difference, because when you have jnana yoga in bhakti yoga, you're using that knowledge to increase your understanding of your individual position with the Lord. You're using that knowledge as a way to better understand who you are in the material world, so that you can deepen your love of God. But jnanis are just trying to just know the Lord, know the Supreme by only understanding the qualities, or understanding this or understanding that, and knowing intellectually. It's just like when you someone who practices medicine, right? If they are only reading it in a book and they've never actually practiced medicine on a human, the human dynamic is very changeable. It's very individual. So if someone's very book learned and they don't ever apply that knowledge to a real life situation, then that book knowledge is it's kind of useless, isn't it? Like, what are you doing with your head filled with all of this knowledge if you're not actually applying it? And so this is the almost uselessness of jnana yoga as a sole practice, because gathering all of that knowledge really doesn't do much for us if we're not actually trying to apply it in a devotional sense. So this is where the bhakti yoga really takes that and marries it with the true goal of life, which is understanding the Lord, developing a relationship with the Lord. And through this process of coming to understand who the Lord is, coming to understand our personal, relationship with the Lord, then as we develop in that path, as we develop in that relationship, over time, hopefully over time, our material attachments will decrease, our material desires will decrease, and we'll be doing things for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll be doing for the pleasure of Krishna. And as Krishna desires, right, because this is, comes somewhat down to his, completely down to Krishna's mercy, then these activities, hopefully over time, will not be collecting karma. They will be helping to free us from our material existence. And so, so these are, some really important things to keep in mind here. So, I wanted to read a little bit. There was a couple of things that, in preparing for today's class, that I found were really lovely, and just wanted to read a little bit from some of these. And this one is it's a smaller book. These are actually excerpts from Bhagavad Gita, but they were brought into a smaller book, Rajavidya. But the chapter 8 is Action and Knowledge of Krishna. And the verse used here is Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spriha iti mam yo bijannati karma bir na sabhadyate. There is no work that affects me, nor do I desire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruit of reactions of work. And Prabhupada goes on to explain that the whole world is bound by karma. We all know of the existence of microbes or germs, which exist by the millions within the measurement of 1 millimeter. But in the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that beginning with the microbe, which is called Indragopa, up to Indra, the king of heavenly planets, all are bound by karma, the reactions to work. We all have to suffer or enjoy the reactions of our work, be they good or bad. As long as we have to suffer or enjoy these reactions, we are bound to these material bodies. So this is the law of karma. As long as we are in some aspect of the material energies, even the heavenly planets are still part of somewhat of those material energies, because they are not fully evolved up to the highest planet. They still have some of these reactions. So here, Prabhupada says, by nature's arrangement, the material body is given to the living entity for his suffering or enjoyment. Different types of bodies are acquired for different purposes. The body of a tiger is made for killing and eating raw meat. Similarly, hogs are made in such a way that they can eat stool. As human beings, our teeth are made for eating vegetables and fruits. All of these bodies are made according to the work done by the living entity in past lives. Our next bodies are being prepared according to the work we are doing now. But in the previously quoted verse, Sri Krishna indicates that those who know the transcendental nature of his activities become free from the reactions of their own activities. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to tie it back to another Bhagavad Gita verse that I wanted to share today, which is chapter 8, verse 9 in Bhagavad Gita. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. So this is, this is really coming to that arrangement that Krishna is, he's the smallest of the smallest. He's the largest of the largest. So the yoga siddhis that were mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned in the purport for today, also really, while one could achieve some degree of those, isn't it really kind of in competition? We're just trying to compete with Krishna at that point. Are we, when we're trying to achieve those yoga siddhis, are we really just trying to be like Krishna? And so to what end are we really benefiting if we're trying to, if there's a little maybe envious of Krishna for his abilities, his powers of being the smallest of the smallest, the largest of the largest, the all-knowing, all-pervading entity. So when we see, some of these mystic yogis that aspire to these types of yoga siddhis, one could say, and Prabhupada has said, that they are really just, they're show bottle spiritualists. They're really just trying to compete with the Lord. They have envy, great envy of the Lord's ability there and gain some of those abilities. So that's not going to really be of much benefit in a relationship. We all know in relationships in life, when there's envy, when there is competition, ultimately what happens to the relationship? It degrades. So we want to have that loving, reverence of Krishna. We want to have that loving servitude attitude with Krishna. And whatever that looks like for each one of our individual positions in life. So we may all have different ways that we serve the Lord, and it may look very, very different for each person. So Prabhupada continues on. When Krishna comes to this earth, he's not like us. He's totally transcendental. We desire the fruits of our activities, but Krishna does not desire any fruits, nor are there any reactions to his actions, nor does he have any desire for fruits of activity. When we enter into business, we hope for profit, and with that profit, we hope to buy things that will make our life enjoyable. Whenever conditioned souls do something, there is a desire for enjoyment behind it. But Krishna has nothing to desire. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is full with everything. So this is, this is the reminder that what could Krishna even want from us? You know, if Krishna could have everything and has everything that he could possibly want, why does Krishna want us to serve him? What is the benefit there? You know, why do you need a servant if you can already do things, you know, have everything at your fingertips on your own? And this it's the loving relationship. Because if you think about humans in the likeness of the Lord, we are not the Lord, but we're in the likeness of the Lord. We have certain qualities of the Lord, minute quantities. Aren't we social creatures? You know, don't we desire love? Don't we desire friendship? We desire companionship. We desire to have those connections with others. And where does that come from? This is not something that is unique to humans. All living entities possess this, as in the spiritual sky as well. And we see this in Srimad Bhagavatam, that there are so many activities happening both in the spiritual planets and as well as within the elevated devotees of the Lord. There are these relationships, these are interactions, and all of this is a mirror. This is all a mirror for the spiritual sky. So when we think of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan with his associates. He's not alone. He's not alone. He has all of his associates there. He has pastimes and relationships and wives and friends and the cows and all of these things. When Krishna came to Vrindavan, he didn't just immediately go into seclusion, right? When Krishna came to here, to Vrindavan, when he moved to Vrindavan with Mother Yashoda, and we're in the month of Kartik, so it's a beautiful time to remember this pastime with Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. When he came to Vrindavan, what was his first thing he did? You know, as he was having his friends, he was playing with the monkeys, had these beautiful pastimes with Mother Yashoda. Had beautiful pastimes with the cows and the gopis. Like I said, he wasn't in isolation. He was a social being. And so in that reflection as humans, that we also have that. So this is Krishna wants to have a relationship with us. And it is our nature to have a relationship with Krishna. And Prabhupada talks about this here too. Whenever we must understand the meaning of relationships with Krishna. I'm going to jump back into his purport for a minute. In this material world, we have many relationships as father, mother, wife, or husband. Whatever relationship we find here is but a perverted reflection of the relationship we have with the Supreme Lord. Whatever we find in this material world is born of the absolute truth, but here it is pervertedly reflected in time. Whatever relationship we have with Krishna goes on. If we have a relationship and friendship, that friendship is eternal and continues from life to life. In the material world, a friendship exists for a few years and then breaks. Therefore, it is called perverted, temporary, or unreal. If we make our friendship with Krishna, it will never break. If we make Krishna our master, we will never be cheated. If we love Krishna as our son, he will never die. If we love Krishna as our lover, he will be the best of all, and there will be no separation. Because Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is unlimited and has unlimited number of devotees. Some are trying to love him as a lover or husband, and therefore Krishna accepts this role. In whatever way we approach Krishna, he will accept us, as he states in the Bhagavad Gita, Ya yata mam pradanyate tam te tateva bhajani aham mam vartamud vartate manisha partha sarvasha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So I think this is a really, sweet way of understanding that relationship. So how does this all tie back to today? Well, it ties back to today because here in Prabhupada's purport especially, he was really diving deep into the understanding of the different types of karma and nishkama karma, the way that we can satisfy the Lord, those that are in nishkami, they are nishkami devotees, are completely dependent on the orders of the Lord and are always ready to discharge their duty for the satisfaction of the Lord. And so here it's really getting that more clear understanding that our position is really to be surrendered to the Lord. Now, that's not to say that we give up all of our material friendships and relationships. No, those are a good practice ground. The way I see it, all of our material relationships are ways that we can practice loving the Lord. Through each relationship, when we see Super Soul, in each relationship, when we see Krishna through that person, when we see that person as an opportunity to love a sweet soul of Krishna, that we are continuing to work on how we are. If we, in our material relationships, aren't kind, we're not compassionate, if we are backbiting or whatever is happening in our relationships with other people, then what are we truly doing in our relationship with the Lord? Because are we honest in our relationship? Are we trying to get one over on Krishna? Are we truly serving Krishna, or are we, chanting and thinking about something else, right? Are we speaking out of envy? That can be really problematic. So when we reflect on our own relationships in the material world, in the sense of who we have in our lives, whether it's people or animals, however we are interacting in those relationships, we can look as Prabhupada said, as a perverted reflection of the relationship with the Lord. So how are we interacting in our daily lives versus how we are interacting in our relationship with Krishna? Because if our relationship with Krishna is pure and sincere and true, then hopefully that will filter through, that our relationships with those around us will also be compassionate and kind, and free from envy, anger, things like that. It's not to say we don't get angry, but free from some of those very detrimental qualities. So to kind of wrap up today's verse, I wanted to just go read the last paragraph of Prabhupada's purport today, and just kind of sum everything up. Those who are after fruitive results for their pious activities, those who desire salvation and identity with the Supreme, and those who desire material perfections of mystic power are all restless because they want something for themselves. But the devotee is completely peaceful because he has no demand for himself and is always ready to serve the desire of the Lord. The conclusion is, therefore, that the Lord is for everyone, because no one can achieve the result of his respective desires without his sanction. But as stated by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 8:9, all such results are awarded by him only, for the Lord is Adishvara, the original controller of everyone, namely the Vedantists, the great Karmakandiyas, the great religious leaders, the great performers of austerity, and all who are striving for spiritual advancement. But ultimately, he is realized by the pretensionless devotees only. Therefore, special stress is given to the devotional service of the Lord by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. So I think that Prabhupada really encapsulates this purport and this verse very beautifully to really draw on the concepts of who's really those who are truly striving to serve the Lord without pretension, those who are truly striving to understand the Lord through bhakti, not through mental speculation and just wrangling of information around the Lord. Those that are truly not envious of the Lord and not trying to attain greater powers. Those are the ones that are truly going to realize the Lord. And realization is that understanding of one's supreme position in life. So I'll take a minute to stop here and see if there are any comments, any questions, corrections, and the like. So
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for a very, very in-depth lecture and the references that you gave, especially the Krishna being the benefactor, Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, friend of everyone. All the sacrifices and austerities are for him. You mentioned about also, well, in the purport, that we should serve without pretension. That is so sometimes people who want to be recognized, but they really are not serving from their hearts fully. They still connect to the sense gratification. but they want people to think otherwise. Then they try to pretend. Practically every temple you'll find a few people who are like that, unfortunately.
Yes.
But as His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya's family says, they're working on it. They're gonna get a little better, as time goes on. So you also mentioned a point just for a short while, but you mentioned about, and these are all points that I like very much and taken to heart. Mentioned about people who have knowledge of the scriptures but don't really use them in serving. Those that you said it actually is useless. Then yeah, because it's not being used for anything, then it becomes useless. Even though the person has it all in their minds. Very, very important points. So, dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself. If you want to have some, questions to be dealt with or realizations and other things that you want to connect from your own knowledge of, bhakti, please, do that. This is the time to unmute yourself. Hare Krishna.
Absolutely. Hare Krishna. Feel free to, yep, Sarvanga, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class, and Prabhuji made a very nice point that it's a very important thing that we don't be pretentious, or we are not doing it for some kind of sense gratification. So my question would be like, how do I understand that the service I'm doing is not in the way of sense gratification or show off or whatever, like that, of those terms? Because like I always question to myself, like, am I doing this in the right mood? Have I been doing all these services or whatever I'm doing? Am I doing it in that correct attitude? So yeah, that will be the question.
That's a very nice question. It's not easy. I think we know ourselves best and we know our minds best. And if while doing a service, if we are not thinking about Krishna during the service, or if our minds start to wander toward material activities or thinking, when am I going to be done with this? Those are maybe some clues that might give you a sense for where you're at in your spiritual, in your service. And also I would suggest that just know that it's a progression, in that doing the service is step one, right? And as we continue to meditate on our how we're serving, and then if we are continuing to meditate on how we're serving, our service will improve over time. And as we continue to chant and improve our chanting, our service will improve over time. So it's like the daily shower, over time we get cleaner and cleaner. But if we stop showering, we stop brushing our teeth, then things are going to start to get a little bit, more and more dirty and cloudy, and it's going to be a problem. So we take our daily shower, we do our daily chanting, we do the activities that are going to continue to clean us, clean our hearts, clear our minds, and continue to keep ourselves in good association and keep ourselves in a good mental state as best as we can. Then over time our service will also start to improve. So unfortunately, it's not like flipping a light switch for most of us. It's a progression. So I would say just continuing to observe your mentality during service and recognizing that there's room for improvement, and continuing to see how you can become more and more focused in all of the things that you're doing in your day. So I hope that helps.
Hare Krishna Mataji, yeah. That was a nice point actually, that where is my mind when I am serving or doing any service? Is it like, I want to do it, complete it quickly and go somewhere like that? So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of it too. So, it's like I said, it's a progress, it's a progression, so we just continue to work on it and be aware of it.
Hare Krishna. I have want to ask you to comment on, as far as doing service, because you answer questions related to devotion service. Can you comment on practical points that will make a person convinced that they are committed to their service? Commitment part of it. There are people who serve, and I'm asking this question, there are people who serve, but they're really not fully committed. It's like, okay, I'll do, and then when I want to go do something else for myself, and it doesn't really matter what, the temple wants me to do, I'll just go have fun anyway and come back whenever I want to. And this, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
Um,
that's tough.
Commitment. Yeah.
That's tough. And I think anybody that's in a leadership role that's trying to engage and enthuse volunteers faces this, whether it's, a spiritual or, in just a kind of a non, sectarian situation, but, or in a sectarian situation. But, I think that ultimately the person needs to be in a space where they are wanting to do the service. And sometimes we can try and get people to do service, which is tricky. It's a tough balance because we need things to be done. And there's a lot of things that have to get done to run an organization, to run a temple, for deity worship. So there's a lot of things that need to occur. And knowing that everyone's at different stages in their bhakti, at different stages of life, it's, finding the person that's going to be best suited for that role, and encouraging service, but not, I think it can be sometimes if it's mandated, unless they're like, they're under an agreement, like they're here from India and they have to do a certain number of hours or whatever. But, to help people find service that they're really tuned toward, that is personally pleasing to them. If, someone that's very creative might find decorating for the festivals and doing garlands very, very pleasurable because it's their natural propensity. But someone who's very analytical, if you stick them on garlands or doing decorations, they're going to fight it. They're not going to be committed. So it's matching the personality to the service, and also getting realistic understanding of how much people can really put in to what they need to do. And maybe it's more people, fewer hours, and sometimes the spreading it out among a lot of different people can be, but it's hard to gauge. Everyone's in a different, coming to Krishna consciousness in very different stages of life and different stages of understanding and stages of bhakti. So, knowing that we're working with within a community of people from so many different backgrounds and different levels of desire can be challenging. So I don't think I can adequately answer your question, except for, I know that it's challenging as a leader to balance those things. So I hope that offers some food for thought, if anything.
Yeah, it does. It does, especially when you mentioned when somebody has a particular propensity and the leader engages that person, the service connected with that propensity, then the person gladly does it because they know that's something that they're good at doing. The rest of it, I agree. It comes from it has to come from the person's heart. Yeah, the commitment has to come from the person's heart, and it takes a while because we're all growing, so it takes a while to be really, to get to the point where you realize, listen, I should be all for Krishna. I should be all for, yes, other things to do, but I should be all for Krishna though. So when it comes to my service, I have to put a lot of priority in it. So not
Yeah.
everybody's at that point.
Yeah, not everyone is. And I think also too, you also can get a staleness that can come about through activities. One can be doing the same service for a long time and it becomes very rote, very mechanical. Just like our japa if we're doing japa for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, the japa can become very mechanical if we're not careful. So sometimes mixing it up, I think in order to keep things fresh, sometimes we just have to do a change up. And maybe for japa, we change the location or change that we're just kind of doing more like meditative walking japa versus, sitting, or maybe we sit in front of an incense, or change it up, so that things can become fresh again. And same thing with service. I think sometimes we can get in a rut and things become, because it's the mind. This is one of the four flaws of humans, is the mind. And the mind is very powerful. And when things get too rote, too repetitive, then the mind can kind of sneak in through the back door and be like, let's think about this and think about this. And so then it starts to wander. And as we know, Arjuna said, it's more difficult than the wind to control the mind. So if Arjuna was struggling with it, we certainly are not in such an elevated position as Arjuna. So we have to understand that the mind can be very challenging to harness, whether we're new to service or we've been doing the services for, a long, long time, that we have to always be vigilant of our mentality and our consciousness in everything that we're doing, and be willing to do a shift and mix it up and just be like, okay, it's time. We need to like shake things up a little bit here. You go here now, and you go here, and I'm going to go here, and let's just mix it up and shake things up a little bit so things don't get stale. It's human nature, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, that would also work. I can see that as you're, talking, I was just kind of making pictures are coming in my mind as to how that can be done. How that's possible. And let me see. Yeah, and she is on to, so she's also hearing, because it's all a leader's sometimes, depending on the people, nightmare as to how to get somebody to do what they want to do, what the service is that they have to do. Sometimes, they go through some changes and have to deal with them. It's all the mind for the most part.
100%,
The mind.
100%. And then you deal with egos and things like that, and it's all,
Personally, I'll just share one thing. Personally, some of the services that I do, if it is some kind of creative thing or some work that has to be done, I get satisfaction from the work itself. I know in Gideonagri when I had to, mow a lawn, like my Guma, I just placed mow a lawn. And then when I finished and I just cut the blades off, the machine is still on, but the blades are not turning. And I just take a tour of the whole place and look how nicely the grass looks like, and I get satisfaction from that.
Exactly.
Just that, because we know what it looked like before, and then the after looks so nicer, so much nicer. And it's just the satisfaction from the service itself.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's true. I mean, I feel that too. I do garlands for the Philadelphia Temple every week, and I've been doing garlands for years, and I'm not the best garland maker by any stretch, and some I do them in the evenings at home, and some nights I'm just tired and I'm just like, I'm hungry and I just want to get through them, quickly. But then when they're done, I'm like, oh, look at them, they're done. And then I want to see them on the deities the next day.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah.
And that's like, oh, look, the garlands are on the deities, and oh, look, that orange flower matched Radharani's dress today, and oh, look at that, and then oh, look at the the Gaur Nitai, like, oh, like the roses hang at just the perfect length of both their feet, and so like you said, you take even if in that moment I wasn't like in perfect consciousness and I was like, I just had to get these done, I'm so tired, and everyone would just sit on the sofa and relax for 5 minutes, but I get the garlands done, but I relish the moment when I can look at the deity darshans and see them on the deities, so we take small pleasures and interest and satisfaction in the things that we do, and recognize that when we do serve the Lord, like with the garlands or with mowing the lawn, you're remembering these are for the Lord, and I know that the garlands are for the Lord because I see them and I get to relish the beauty with them, the deities. So yeah, we just keep working on it. That's all.
Thank
Keep the
you very
conversation
much.
alive.
Yeah, it's funny that both of us had that kind of feeling that at the end of the service you look and the satisfaction that comes with the effect that the service itself has created. In your case, the way you look on the deities, and in my case, looking at the whole lawn, I said, boy, this is really nice.
Exactly.
Like that. I think I understand. Want to say something?
Madhusuya?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, August of Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice class, especially the point about, knowledge. Jnani to Vigyan, the Gyan to Vigyan. I was just reading a quote, and I believe it was His Holiness Bhakti Swami. I get a lot of quotes, on my feed from different spiritual masters. And I remember a quote either by Bhakti Swami, I believe it was him, about the importance of applying the knowledge to really understand Krishna.
Yeah.
If not, it just becomes a philosopher, which is pretty much speculation, like you said.
Yeah.
It's just going around and just sharing the knowledge. But if someone, like you said, it's like someone is telling you how to give, a mother how to give birth, but they don't know the pain that the woman goes through, So I was just reflecting that. And then, of course, the questions about services, I wanted to share a beautiful instruction, I have to say, that was given to me by a very senior disciple of His Holiness Satsrup Maharaj back in 96. And it stayed with me. It really stayed with me. And I really speak about that to devotees when it comes to service, Her name is Mother Indulekha. Never forget her. She's in Boston right now. She taught me, she says, when we do service, we should do service that service is our child. Just as how we will not ignore our own child or our family members or our parents or our husband, we will make sure that from the beginning till the end, everything is taken care of before we think of anything else. That is service, whether it be DT, whether it be quick kitchen, whether it be cleaning, anything. So that really stayed with me, where she says this, when we start developing the mood of the service is given to me, it's Krishna, or it's Radharani, or it's Gornitai, or Jagannath Subhadra, whatever the personality issue is saying, is if we have the understanding that the service is given to me because it is Krishna, it's a child, it really helps to change our consciousness, because the more we think like that, the more we will make adjustments in our lives to inconvenience our lives to serve and please the Lord. That always stayed with me. Wanted to share that. That always stayed with me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because she says that when we do that, Krishna will solve all the other problems. If we just take the service as Krishna, like just as we see something of our child, we won't tell the child, you know what, you got to go feed yourself. I'm not cooking for you. We don't tell that to our kids or to the husband or to, whatever. So if we have that same mood of how we treat our children, that same mood applies to service. Any service in the temple, Krishna will solve all the other problems in the material life.
Yeah, yeah.
That was very difficult for me to understand at the time, because I was a very new devotee. But over the years, it has become true. It has come true, that I think that is the consciousness we need to have, that just as I will not drop my child and ignore my child, why would I ignore service?
Yeah, well, and I think we have to look at service in a broader sense too. And I think
Yeah.
service is not just in the temple, because
Yes.
everything is Krishna's domain. So,
Yes.
if we look at everything as service, to say, well, this job that I have right now,
Sure.
I'm doing this job because it's putting food on my table and it's serving my family. So I need to have that service mentality with everything I do. I'm serving in my home, and this is Krishna's home. This isn't my home. It's Krishna's yard. It's not my yard. So if we take that service mentality and we apply it to everything that we're doing, even if we're serving a family member and saying, this family member is sick, or they need my help, and I will do my best to serve this person, knowing that they are Krishna's child, or and so that's the mentality. I think if we expand that service mindset to everything that we do in our lives, then
I think that is one of the values, like, seeing Krishna in everything, the equal vision.
Yeah.
Samadarshana,
Yeah.
seeing Krishna in everything. And, and that's a very good point you mentioned, Vrindavanji, because sometimes when we start to draw lines, then we start segregating. Then sometimes what we can do, and I've come across such situations where sometimes, people will say, but my family comes first, or my job comes first and my family comes second. The family suffers.
Yeah.
Or my family comes first, my job is second, the job suffers.
Yeah.
So if we try to develop that mode of equal vision in seeing Krishna in everything, taking care of the elderly, elderly parent,
taking care of our environments and Mother
Exactly.
Bhumi.
Exactly. Taking care of Mother Bhumi outside and not taking it for granted.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
So
know, and I think that's the lacking part is how do we see Krishna in everything, whether it's inside the temple, outside the temple,
yeah.
Krishna's building, my house, the parking lot trash, whatever it is, I see that,
It's
I think that consciousness is really going down as Kali Yuga is progressing. So that's
yeah,
going to be a challenge.
it's critical. If we don't see Krishna as the maintainer and the controller, everything is Krishna's property. So, if we don't see that as the reality, then where our mindset is only just focused in one narrow band, and then we disregard
Absolutely.
everything else. So we can't. This is not an exercise of hyper focus and then disregard. We
Exactly.
have to take the principles and expand them outward to
Right.
everything, because this is all Krishna's domain, every single thing. Like I started volunteering at a horse farm because I love animals so much. And
Very well.
I just love working with animals. So and I just when I'm working with these horses and I'm just like chanting to them and like, massaging them and just treating them with love and care, because it's Krishna's beast, and so it's all of these opportunities are ways that we can we go to our propensities, where we feel, so we have to see our whole vision has to be spiritualized.
And that is the Bhagavad Gita. One of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita is how to see Krishna everywhere, and not segregate,
Yeah.
not draw the lines, not draw the point. This is less important, that is important. Sometimes, like I come across situations where devotees would say, no, but preaching is more important than deity worship. Deity worship is more important than distribution, but Prabhupada says all is important.
Yeah.
Once we start segregating, if someone say, no, cooking is more important than deity worship. And I'm like, well, everything is important.
Everything is important.
Everything, whether
And so
it's
is maintaining your children.
exactly, the key point is how to balance everything and not let anything get affected, by seeing equal vision,
Equal vision. And it's not
That's
that
the
we have to
thing.
carry all of the load, right? Krishna carries what we lack. We
Yes.
don't have to carry the load of all of these things, but anything that we choose to endeavor in, we bring our Krishna consciousness to that activity by
Yes.
taking that spiritual focus.
That's the key point, how to, yeah. Krishna will help if we just take the one step, Krishna will take 100 steps, as they say in the Christian churches.
1,000 times over, and he will carry what we lack.
Yes,
1,000 times over.
absolutely. We
we
just gotta take,
we
just
have
gotta
to
take the
desire
one
to see Krishna in everything that we do. We have to desire to see Krishna everywhere, and he'll help us. He will.
I remember in the old days of my, when I mentioned old days, it's so funny, but in my early days of Krishna consciousness, in Gita Nagari, when devotees were getting services, and sometimes, they're like, who wants to do the service? And we all want to do the service, and then we just come like 5 minutes late, right? And then one devotee said, oh, but she got it, she came first. And then we're like, oh man, she got the mercy. I missed out.
I
So,
missed out.
but the mood is not in the mood of like, oh, the mood is like, I just got to come 5 minutes early, like that mood of enthusiasm, endeavoring, I want the mercy, and then sharing the mercy. It was such a sweet time just to see how devotees were like, man, I missed the mercy. I should have come.
That's great.
It's so cute. It's so sweet. And I think that consciousness will really help us to really see Krishna in everything, and then grab it. Anyway, I'm done talking. Haribo.
No, it's okay. And Sarvanga has his hand up. It is getting kind of late. Is it a quick question, Prabhu?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, maybe later on we can talk about it then.
Okay, it's up to you. If you can make it quick, then because it's all
The
after
question
9.
was just regarding Mataji made a point that we have to like look around, that it is all Krishna's domain, And my question comes here where we say that taking care of the family is also part of that, or taking care of things around us is also part of Krishna consciousness, and I do understand that. But I always get a question in my mind that till what point of time or what point is it really Krishna conscious? And like when does it become sense gratification? Because there is something is really Krishna consciously you are taking care of some things, maybe your family, maybe you said like you're massaging horses, but you with that you are also chanting. So that is somewhere I feel like a Krishna conscious way to take care of the horses. In a similar way, with the family, like where does it uh, where is that point that it is becoming sense gratification now?
Well, I think you answered your question. It's your consciousness. So,
Mm.
it's you could do the most spiritual, sorry, my dog's barking. You could do the most spiritual work in the planet that's deemed like the highest, most elevated spiritual work. If you're thinking about, watching a TV show, or not focus on whatever that work is, then it's not spiritual work. You're doing an activity, but you're not doing it in the Krishna conscious space. You're not, the consciousness is not aligned with the activity you're doing, so there's a disconnect, there's discord. So yes, there are material activities for sure, like going to the movies, doing these things, right? Going to all these things, but we really need to maintain our mentality. And when our mentality is in the space of thinking of Krishna and seeing everything as Krishna, we're naturally going to gravitate to things that are in the mode of goodness. And the things that are in the mode of goodness are not going to put us in darkness. They're not going to detract from our spiritual life. And that's how we know the difference. Because when you're in that space, the mode of goodness, one can transcend the mode of goodness eventually, but we have to at least strive for the mode of goodness. And that's a decision. Activities in the mode of goodness is a decision that we can choose to make. And we know what's in the mode of goodness, what's in the mode of passion, and what's in the mode of ignorance. And so if we're constantly engaging in things that are in the mode of ignorance, trying to purify our consciousness, it's not going to work. There's going to be a disconnect there. But if we're engaging in activities in the mode of goodness, doing things that are going to elevate us, and our consciousness is thinking about Krishna in that space, then the two will align, but they can't otherwise. So yes, it's true that the modes of material nature very much govern so much of this conversation. If you're but everything is still Krishna's domain. So your consciousness has to be set in the right direction, and your activities need to be in the mode of goodness. And then things will start to align for you. And I'm not anywhere near that. Like, so I'm just, sharing my understanding of things, because I have my own long path ahead of me too. So I'm certainly not standing on any kind of soapbox myself, declaring these things from experience. But it's more about just where our head is. Keeping our head clear, keeping our head on compass pointed to K, keeping ourself in the mode of goodness. And that's a pretty darn good start, I'd say.
Mhm. Very much so. Thank you very much for the comments. And I hope it's satisfactory, Damodar. Thank you, everybody, for coming on this morning.
Nice discussion.
And have a wonderful, wonderful Krishna Conscious weekend. And don't forget to do your Damodarastika duty of doing the lamp and then chanting the Damodarastika prayers also. This is a time where Krishna consciousness, everything you do is multiplied in terms of the results of it. So we take that seriously. Vancha kalpataru vischa kripa sunive evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.